Hello everyone, Mark Sajan again, and we will talk about Vertex Paint in a short video today. So first of all, once you have a sculpted or modeled figure and you want to have a quick job on having some colors or testing out things, you can use Vertex Paint. Now, of course, if you want to keep high resolution, you can use UVs, but this is a neat and relatively fast way to get a nice result. So this is the model. The model has a multi-res modifier. So when you are dealing with Vertex Paint, what you have to know that the number of vertices will influence how the paint quality will be done. So this is a low resolution model. There's no really point here to paint it. However, we can just paint general tones, but it's not detailed enough. So if we want to get better, we should use this multi-res. We should bake in the data we have. So when we are in sculpting mode, this is the actual polygon count, and this is about 100K. In the vertices and the faces are a little bit lower, but we are looking for the vertices number, so we want to keep it. So let us go back to object mode, crank up the level viewport to actually see what we have, and then press Ctrl A to apply, and now we can use this one for some areas where, for example, around the gill, around the eyes, or here and there, maybe around the fin here, and on the side there's a color change. So these areas should be a little bit higher in resolution. Now here's a little trick that you can use. We can go to sculpt mode. We can use X, the draw brush. Symmetry is on. We can press Ctrl D, that's din topo. So let me hit OK. Now din topo is by default, it's there, but what I want to use, I want to click on this and measure what the actual resolution is here. For example, this is a quite dense area, and it will tell me that this is 127. I think it's a little bit overboard, so let me go and give it another value somewhere in the mid-range here. For example, let me check that value. That's about 60. Now what I will use, the strength is here, it's 0.3. If you start painting with this, you have now the resolution, but it also adds to the model. So to avoid the whole thing, Shift F, scale it down. Now there is no strength at all, and this whole thing is still updating. At least 001. What's going on? Okay, this should work. The topo is turned off. Okay, let me turn back on. For whatever reason it turned off. Let me just do this now, and as you see, there's no change in the model. The only change is how it updates. So I have this wireframe and hotkey. If you don't have it, you can always go in here to the viewport overlays and right click and add to quick favorites. So in pressing Q will launch this. So wireframe is really neat and handy, and now we are just quickly cranking up, and as you see, I'm watching the values. So we have now 85,000, 84, 82 ish range. So just adding a little bit more here and there, maybe here just to add some color, maybe where in this situation. Oh, maybe the brush is too big. Let me just move it closer. Okay, that's fair enough. And don't forget, we are working in the symmetrical way, but if you have a composition idea and you want to work on only one side, you don't need to use X. So again, if you're just doing a quick beauty kind of adjustment, let me move in closer and fill this up a little bit, because there is a gradient usually. Oh, am I destroying something? Yes. So I would just be light with this, so that's fine. Okay, now this is still not as high as cranking up the resolution everywhere, so that's the goal. And of course we can go back to object mode and see if this model can enjoy an auto smooth or shade smooth, and yes, it is fine. Here and there I see some issues with the smoothing, and that is coming from the sculpting. So once you had added some din topo, it is worth to go back to sculpting and just use the light smoothing. And if the smoothing is too strong, press Shift S, and just Shift F and reduce strength of smoothing. You don't need a crazy smoothing. Yeah, this is it. And I'm using a mouse now, so it's just for some areas where I see the meshes breaking up things and it can just generate issues or when painting, I will use a light smoothing. Okay, so the most important areas around the face, quite obvious, and that's it. Alright, so now this is a prepared mesh that's ready to be vertex painted. So let me go to vertex paint. And of course, vertex paint will do fine, but we have to assign materials. So let me go in here, turn it off, and go to material. And the material we have, this will be Sharky Matte. So that's our material, and we want to use the object, the data properties and color attributes. And we have this color. Let me just name it, or we can assign a new one, but here's this attribute. Let me just delete it because you may not see anything like this. So let me go in here, create one, and call it Vertex Paint. And yep, and Shark Vertex Paint. And Shark Vertex Paint. Okay, hitting OK. There we go. And it has a black color by default. We don't really worry about this. If you worry, you can when you are creating, you can click on the base color. Now what we have to do is go into shading mode and just simply use a Shift S, color attribute. And if you're just typing at, it will bring it up, and hit enter and link the color to base color. And if you click in here, you will be able to pick and choose the paint mode. So now I'm going back to layout mode and just simply choose Vertex Paint, and it's black because that's the default kind of black cover, and we can quickly adjust it. So by default, this color is set to white, and if I press Shift K, it will just bring it back, and now we have a flooded. So Shift K again is the hotkey to flood with one color. And just a quick idea. So some colors are better if you just keep them. So go to the color palette, create a new one, and name it the Shark color. And the white color is always useful. The black one is always useful. So, and the middle one is as well. So you can just crank it up here and just hit a plus. So now you have a 3-tone. That's good for just design stuff as well, if you're familiar with stuff, because you can use light and screen, color dodge, and overlay. So if you have a history in Photoshop painting or basically any other painting application, you can use these and combine with the gray values. So that's up to you. But right now, what we want to use is just use a light color palette and just flood with one simple color that's a little bit bluish. So I can go to the blue zone and pressing Shift K, and now it's flooded with this blue color. And of course, the back of the shark is more grayish and darker, so I'll just dial this down. However, before I do that, let me steal the color, because if I want to go back ever with this particular blue color, it's better if I just steal it. Now here's the deal: if you press S, it will just use the eyedropper and pick the color, but as you see, the color is actually, it's not really matching to the base tone, because it will bring the color off the shading as well. Now we are in solid mode, so if I'm pressing Z and we are in solid mode, we can go to material preview, which will give you a little bit different color tone that's slightly closer, or you can go back to solid mode, and within solid mode we can use the flat shading, and flat shading is the pure color. So right now I will just copy this color, put it in the palette, and go back with flat shading. So there we are, studio or flat. Now if you want to make it an easy access, an easy change, you can assign a hotkey for this. So L is my hotkey to flat, And let me show this here. You can set it to flat, or right click here at the flat and just let me remove the shortcut and assign shortcut, and I'm pressing L, and there we go. So when I'm pressing L, it will switch back to this mode when I want to do that. Okay, so nice. Now it's time to go with a grayish tone, a little bit still bluish, but it's a little bit darker, and symmetry is on, and I'm painting on here, and probably it's a bit too dark, but I will go with it for now. So just a simple rough painting, nothing really crazy right now. Just going up in all directions. There we go, and there it is. Okay, so this is a nice tone. Now, what else should we do? Of course, we can spice it up, but before we do that, let me just bring in some ideas. So the colors you are using for the base painting, it's better if you, as soon as possible, you are accurate with your colors. I mean, what you have picked. You can use pictures for that. You can steal color information from the pictures, but the deal is you cannot insert pictures when you are in Vertex Paint mode. So let me go back to object mode and going to side view and just drop an image here. So there we go, and I will just drop it here. This is the shark reference picture, and this is the reference mosaic. So the way this one was done, if you are using Photoshop or any similar things, I've cut out a square from the head, and I use the mosaic filter to break it up into more solid colors. So that is it, and just scaling this down, going back here, scaling it, and using G to grab. This one is G and scale, and there we go, and G and move it here. Okay, so let me go back now to Vertex Paint mode. Let me select the model, Vertex Paint, and here's the deal. So just like in sculpting, if you see that this icon shows that we are in Vertex mode currently, so you can switch with the Alt Q if you want. For example, right now there's no color attribute assigned to this eyeball, so I press Alt Q and it will highlight, and as you see now, the sphere is ready to be painted. Or pressing Alt Q in here with the model, and there we go. So we're going back, and now the colors are showing up, and because we are in solid mode, it will not stay just when we are painting with Vertex Paint. Okay, so there we are. We have now color palettes, and we can use S to steal a color, and maybe in here it's some painting around the eyes, a little bit of darker tone, and maybe for the mouth area I'm using this S key, and that will be the mouth part, so that's also a little bit darker. If I want to avoid but don't want to destroy the color, I will use the strength value, reduce the strength value, and use that lightly. Okay, so now there's the tone is there, but you don't have to use it 100% all the time. The other thing is here's this lighter tone for the belly, so let me go with that. Actually, I will pick here a lighter, even lighter tone, and Shift F and increase. So there we are. Okay, so it's a little bit more whitish, and I will manually do a change in here and pick even a brighter one. Okay, so there we are, and L and choose flat and see the color in flat. Okay, so that way you can really see if everything is okay or not. Now to break up the areas, you can use a blur, you can use the average, but smear and blur, these are pretty handy stuff. Now if you use it a lot, you might want to use the spacebar and press 1 for draw, spacebar for 2, spacebar for 4. That is the smear. Now smear is just it's nice to break up some areas, and it has a nice effect. so you can use the smear and then you can use the blur to blur up things, and that's also a nice technique to create a blend, a good blend around. So let me just use the smear in here a little bit more to bring in the color, and that's one technique that could be used. Now to quickly switch between these modes, let me go back to Studio. This is how it looks now. So if you want to quickly switch between these modes, you can use the space bar, but the problem is depending on your installation, or you may have preferences a little bit differently adjusted. Excuse me. So in here we have key map, preferences, so file preferences, and we have the key map to spacebar action. And spacebar action is set to tools, which one is 90% of the work. It's quite handy if you want to, if you are animating and just animating or video editing, you can just easily switch this back up to the play function. But when you are preparing and modeling in general, is the better option to use tools. Okay, so spacebar 1, 2, 3, and it brings up, and it's also helpful in other areas as well. Now if you want to break up, so now we know how to use the textures, how to switch between models, how to assign a material, and of course quite a few other things, but we can use textures in different ways. But before we do that, here's the brush. So here's the brush. To add some fun, we can use the stroke menu and we can use jitter. Okay, so let me go with the jitter, and this is creating a nice jittering effect. So let me undo this, use a smaller brush size. I've just stolen the picture information, and I can use a little bit of a jitter here, and of course, and I can just stole the information again, just create a blend, and do a nice transformation. So, and then switching to blur mode, a little bit larger brush size, and just blur these areas out, and just adding some blur in here and there, and maybe drag it. Okay, so this is one way to create a kind of a blend. Now, and of course, if you're just creating a cartoony character, it's fairly easy and focusing on mostly nice blends and nice things. The problem with the whole thing is it's not that you cannot really create really high resolution models. It will not deal nicely with all the millions of polygons, but it's decent, so it works fairly well. Okay, you can also use an image for your texture work, and I will hit new and open up the slot and open the picture, and that will be for me it's a Dodge Blue Alpha, and Dodge Blue Alpha looks like this. So it has an alpha channel, so see-through, it has the color and the pattern. So this one is prepared, and now I can, okay, I was loading it on the wrong brush, so let me just new and load it up, and there you go, excuse me. So then I can paint around, and the jitter is using as well. So now the jitter is taking its effect, and of course we have to regulate it if we want to have better control over it. So, but in general, this is one neat way to use the tone. Of course, you can actually use the white one, and with the white one, when you start dealing this, it may alter the color. So the white one is mixed with the tone. Depending on your settings, you may find some options that you can use, but it's not that easy to control. So it's better, in my opinion, that if you are using a color that's already prepared. So let me go in here and use the texture. Where are you, texture? And use the other one that's already low, so dots blue, and this is the blue one, and this is still mixing, I guess, with some tones, so you can alter it. in some situations, but not as much. As you see, it has some effect on the color itself, but usually it's better if you just keep it at a white one, and that brings the color of the original stuff the most. All right, let me go black, blurred out here and there, just to have a general look. Now, what else we can do? First of all, we can actually paint with the texture and through the texture. So texture, and we are using now the brush, and let me delete this one and create a new one and open up the shark reference. And this could be set to, instead of tiled, which one is just in general, it will just tile the texture like this. We can do that. Let me set it this to middle color. Okay. So what we can do is we can start painting right away with this one. So there's a color tone, but because we are mixing, we are picking up the base color. Let me just go in here and paint. No, this is a value painting. So if you want to, we have a few options here. If you want to, the default is mix, so it will mix with the color you have already. If you have no, for example, just a simple white, then you can start painting with that. Or if you have already a paint, you can use, for example, the value, which one is not perfect, but it's relatively going along with the color. So as you see, the tone is slightly darker, but if you compare it to something else, like for example the overlay, this is how the overlay looks. It picks up the color and blends with that, and this is why it is generating some differences. We have also color mode, but color mode is also blending with the stuff, so that's not necessarily the best way. So you can give it a try to use these the color or value, but if you want to use a picture for plastering the model with that, start with a simple basic white model and then use the pictures. The feature I wanted to show you is basically this. Instead of using the tile version, we can use this stencil mode, and when you're using stencil mode, it will automatically bring this picture in. Right click is the navigation, and if you are using, for example, a pattern, not like this, but you can use a pattern and paint through that pattern, you can paint with that. Now, right click and control is for rotation, shift is for scaling. So what I will do is I will use the navigation, model around, and let me just hide away the empties and make it match somewhat. So yep, and scale it up and just scale it, and maybe what should I take? Oh, maybe, yeah. So the side, I want to paint through this, so the jitter function is still there. Let me remove the jitter, and okay, brush size is changing a bit. All right, and let me move this away, and can you see we painted through. So I'm using now the value option, and this is going through. Now the problem is that when you are using this technique, the symmetry is not working with this properly. So this is it's better for some details. So let me undo this, and instead of using this picture, for example, we can use the simple different texture, like the pattern type of thing. So let me go use this pattern, or this pattern, and now I can move it through and scale it down, and just to zoom in and turn on X and just paint through, and now we have this pattern visible there. Okay, so zooming in and just paint through, and now we have the pattern placed there. All right, so depending on what you have. And it's not bad compared to having just a simple Vertex paint. Okay, so it's basically not that bad at all. Right, so this is set to stencil, and of course we can just remove it, and now we have the simple brush back with all the basic functions. So that's it. All right, I turned off symmetry, so this could be repeated on the other side if you need to or have to. All right, the basic functions are pretty cool. Simply draw, pick the colors, start painting the whole thing. You can use the flat shading to see what you actually painted, and just with some time and attention you can go on a long way. All right, thank you very much. See you next time. Goodbye.